Hello, everybody, and welcome to our first official Autonomous Dev Sync. Yo, for those of you who have been following us on various socials and on Medium and on Twitter and X, all of that, we may have noticed that we finally delivered the news that we have promised for a little bit too long. But we are finally glad you have done this. And so we're now officially autonomous and building the autonomous network on our good old subspace protocol. So this is going to be one of the big topics of today's DevSync, and I know Jim is going to stop on it as well. Then we have a couple of product updates from Mark, a couple of protocol updates, a lot of UX, and a lot of new stuff that's coming to the protocol for all of the things that we need to test uh, for our upcoming mainnet. So, wow, exciting times. I am going to pass it over to Jim now for all the ecosystem stuff, and then we're going to go to product and protocol.
Hi everyone. The biggest news, of course, rebrand exclamation mark. Last Friday we made our announcement. 3 days ago now. Feels like an eternity. We've put the announcement out. We are officially autonomous. We know that we shared some previews of that with ambassadors beforehand, and we know that some were aware of our plans. But yeah, it's absolutely official. It's gone out to news outlets. You will see our socials rebranding in the coming days and weeks. We want to take it a little bit slow, so that we don't want to people to turn up in Discord, for example, and think they're on the wrong server. So we're going to take it a little bit slower than just a big bang approach. I would encourage anyone who's really interested in the nuts and bolts to take a look on the Autonomous Academy. That's a resource that the whole org has chipped into, but ecosystem have taken the lead on. You can find that if you go to autonomous.net, our new website. There's a learn link, and that will take you straight to the academy. We are aware that the announcement has caused a number of questions in the community, and we are going to be providing clarity on those questions sooner rather than later. If everything goes to plan, we're going to be having a community call this week, hopefully on our usual slot on Wednesday. I just need to resolve some scheduling conflicts, and we'll get it announced in Discord. So yes, autonomous at last. Okay, and there'll obviously be more news coming about the rebrand in subsequent updates from ecosystem. Hot topics. So within the community, we're seeing people are continuing to try and work out the optimal setup for a cluster for their particular hardware and infrastructure. We are seeing a few problems, but the majority appear to be coming from farmers with lots of plots. So it's not the average use case. In general, the feedback has been that it's working great, and it's a step forward for people who need a more kind of composable way to express their infrastructure. Memory usage. So I'm not sure if Nazar wants to speak on this, but I know that there was an issue on Windows, and I did see that we shipped a workaround in the June the 11th build. But I have also seen there are still some reports of ORM killer popping up from the community. I think it's still being looked into.
Yeah, there was one user that reported it previously and was very responsive, and test builds worked great for them. And they have like big Epic 64 core, 128 thread CPU and lots of space, and it works for them. But there is a new user in on the forum that says it still leaks memory for them. And there is this guy on Discord that usually posts that there is a problem without any details whatsoever. So I have no idea what setup is that, why it happens, and so on. But yeah, potentially there is either some other issue or something. I don't know. I don't have details yet.
Okay. So memory usage, there could still be an issue there, but we're still trying to understand exactly what that problem looks like, which leads quite nicely into another issue we've seen, which is that the latest farming cluster build stops farming after a replot. And when we talk about a lack of information, I want to give a special shout out to Vexa, who's been providing comprehensive logs and details about your observations. They're super useful. If anyone's unsure about what information really helps us home in on where the problems lie, take a look at some of the Vexa's feedback. And of course, we're always, as always, we're very grateful for all the testing that the community are helping us with. I believe that that's still being looked into, Nazar.
That is fixed in a pull request. We found the reason. There were some other regressions on the main branch in the test build, so don't jump on them unless you're already there. Otherwise, just jump back to the stable release. But the upcoming test builds will be fixed.
Thanks, Nazar. And I know that you're replying to people directly, directing them to these builds that you're creating to try and address the issue, or at least get as
It's
close to
helpful
what.
to get early feedback on those builds before they reach out general availability for everyone.
Wonderful. And a final hot topic, a firm favorite, of course, is official GPU plotter. I don't know if we have any updates.
Well, we have a branch shared with us which has an implementation. From my understanding, they are working on AMD support now, and we have figured out how to make it compatible with CPU plotter. There are some differences in the way sectors are being created in the encoding process because there are potentially many valid ways to encode a sector. But the key thing is that the way that GPU encodes and decodes things should match the way CPU decodes and encodes things. Otherwise, you will create a valid sector, but CPU will not be able to farm it. Um, so we finally agreed on that. There will actually be a new version of the plot that new versions of the software will be creating that will be compatible with GPU. But if you already started plotting something, you will not be able to jump onto GPU. Because to make it compatible is kind of tricky and will be very damaging to the performance. Um, so just wait for the official updates. We made progress there, but nothing to share as like test build or anything.
Thanks, Nazar. And of course, big news. And proper, real updates on stuff that you'll be able to get your hands on. You can expect we'll be making a big song and dance about. So yeah, official announcements is the place to keep an eye on there. That's our roundup of hot topics. I do want to quickly talk on Stake Wars 2. We keep kind of hinting at this. What I can share is that we have a design for the initiative and a provisional start date. I call it provisional because we are still waiting for a few PRs to land, and there's a bit of infrastructure set up. But I will be announcing details very soon, and in there I'll provide some more clarity on what exactly it is we're waiting for. But what I can share right now, and as early as possible, is that if you want to take part, then it is very important to start farming as soon as possible. Especially if you are someone who's never farmed before and might struggle to reach their min stake. Start a farmer up immediately. That's the way to go. That's everything from me, Daria. Thank you.
Well, that's great to hear that the community is getting interested in the rebrand, and I'm totally gonna listen in the community call. We're gonna have one this Wednesday. Um, One important thing that I wanted to add to the stake wars that's important for the community is to also keep eye on the latest releases and make sure you upgrade if you want to participate, because we will be rolling out a lot of protocol upgrades that Ning is going to be talking about a little later, and is unless you upgrade, you won't be able to participate, basically. So keep an eye on that. I am going now to pass it to Mark for product updates.
Yes, so this week for last week for the product team, we mainly focus on Auto SDK. Our goal is to deliver a library, SDK and TypeScripts that make it much more easy to interact with all the components of the network. So personally, I worked on the auto consensus part to be able to query, balance, transfer tokens, and use all the staking functionality, register an operator, nominate an operators, and such. Abby has been working on the auto ID parts. That's almost complete as well. The next stage will be to create example of use case on the client side as well as in the Node.js side, so server and client, to how to use the SDK. And then we'll integrate it to Astral to give more example of code using it. I also worked a bit on Astral trying to fix some open issue. This week we'll also solve a few other issues, improving the stake wars page and the leaderboards and the indexer part as well, and start fixing the few small things that are to do before stake war 2. So register operator need to change to be able to pass in the seed of the operators to give the proof of ownership and such. Yeah. So that will be our focus.
Thanks, Mark. It's always improving the usability of everything we have around here. Well, next up, we also have improvements on user experience that I know a lot of farmers have already tried out. And I'm going to pass it over to Shamil.
We released the SnapSync last week, the faster version of the initial node sync for farmers. It can be enabled by setting the sync flag to value snap, as described in the latest release notes, and it is also enabled by default in SpaceAcres. SnapSync downloads the state near the head of the chain, as well as some number of the recent blocks. It works significantly faster than the existing DSN version that downloads also blocks from DSN. The last week, tests showed that SnapSync finishes in less than 1 hour compared to days using the regular DSN sync. So please try it, and we appreciate the feedback.
This Shamil has not mentioned how much work and sweat has been done into actually making that possible, but it's already paying off with so many people saving so much time and actually being not having to have as much patience to actually sync up to our chain and be able to just participate in, well, less than an hour. That's amazing. Thank you. Apart from usability and user experience upgrades, we're still working on brushing up the core protocol with a lot of things coming onto the functionality is going to be tested during stake wars. So I'm going to let Ning to give you an update on that.
Yeah, hi, everyone. For the community, you may notice we have been done the concern upgrade for a very long time. And that's because the team are working hard to implement very lot features and fix, and all of them are accumulated and in the our code base, and they will be run into the Gemini CX in the upcoming concern upgrades. And there are quite a lot of features and fixes introduced. And for example, once it's related to the stable tools, I think we had removed the limitation on the number of nominators per operators. And in Gemini CH, we had a limitation on 100 nominator per operators. And we had found a way to remove that limits. So there will be no such limits when in stable 2. So we will expecting some operator with much larger stake compared to last stables. And the other ones about the stage for proofs. And we had doing some refactorings and some improvement on the our proof system to let each farm pool had contain all the necessary data instead of requiring the verifier, namely the farmer, to provide that data, and which resolve one of the conflict with the SNES things, also lower the requirement for the farmers, so the farmer do not need to uh, contribute some of the storage for just as to learning the consensus node. Instead, they can use that storage for farmings. And then other one is about the SDMs. As you know, we had SDM to cross domain messaging for messaging between domains and also consent chain to domain chains. And we had to allow testing on this with some fix of the issue that raised by the auditors. And most of the fix emerged, and we will also have done a lot of testing to ensure they pass also works, because when the for the user, for the farmer, their will be on the consent chain, and to use on the domains, they need SDM to transfer the token from consent chain to domains. And we had do quite a lot of testing and ensure that pass also work. And we also will land it in Gemini search with the upcoming consent type upgrades. And besides, there's also a lot of things to fix. We have done like we have fixed the gas estimation issues with the EVM transactions. Also, we have fixed some other issue about the maximum domain extrinsic weight limits, etc. So a lot of things happens, and soon we will land into the Gemini stretch.
Thank you, Ning. A lot of the stuff is gonna come out to Gemini 3H this and by the end of this or next week. So we're fully preparing for Stake Wars and to deliver the best possible experience. And of course, to wait for everybody to find more bugs because, well, as you know, it's a bane of our job that there's always more bugs, even if you think you have fixed all of them. So let's hope we can find as many of them as possible during Stake Wars 2 and be super ready and polished. Anything else anyone wants to add for the community? Okay, then stay tuned on our socials and on Discord and for all the upgrades that are be coming out, the releases, the Stake Wars schedule, the Stake Wars incentives, and all of the exciting stuff. See you in 2 weeks. And yes, next time Jeremy is going to be back. I'm only covering for him today, so don't worry, the Jeremy fans.